This is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardinis, to use this as educational material.
Private vs public, digital self.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we'll be presenting on private versus public digital self. In today's world, we all have an online presence, whether through social media, emails, or simply browsing the internet. However, not everything we do online is visible. Some aspects of our digital self are public, while others remain private, hidden behind the scenes. Throughout this presentation, we'll explore the difference between public and private digital identities, the risks and consequences of both, and privacy tips you can use to protect your data. By the end, we hope you'll we hope you'll have a clearer understanding of how to manage your digital self responsibly.
Overview of the topic.
Before we dive into the details, here's an overview of what we'll cover. We'll start by defining the digital self, what it is, and why it matters. Next, we'll explore the differences between the public and private self online. We'll discuss the risks and consequences of having a digital identity. Then, we'll share privacy tips and best practices to protect your personal information. Finally, we'll look at real-world examples that highlight the importance of managing both your public and private digital self. Let's get started.
What is the digital self?
What is digital self? Our digital self refers to the version of us that exists online. It's the collection of data, profile, and interaction we leave behind when using the internet. It includes two main components: the public digital self, which consists of the information we intentionally share online, such as social media, posts, or linked profiles. The private digital self, which is the data collected behind the scene. Things like location, history, browsing, habits, and search activity. Even we were not actively posting, our digital footprint is growing. For example, when you stop online or watch videos, companies track your behavior, building a profile of your preference and habits. Understanding both sides of the digital self is essential to the data-driven world.
What is the public digital self?
Let's start by examining the public digital self. This includes all the content we deliberately share online, such as social media posts, photos, captions, comments, professional profiles on platforms like blogs, YouTube, videos, or any public-facing content. The advantage of having public digital self is that it allows us to connect with others, build a personal brand, or share our experiences. However, there there are risks too. For example, oversharing personal information such as your location or contact details can make you vulnerable to identify theft or stalking. Inappropriate posts could negatively impact your reputation, especially when applying for jobs or college. Therefore, it's important to create your public digital self carefully, as it shapes how others perceive you.
What is the private digital self?
Next, we have the private digital self, which consists of the data that is collected with our directed input. Example, browsing history, websites track your visit and the links you click. Location data, apps like Google Maps or weather service monitor your movement. Search history, search engines build a profile based on your queries. Even when you use incognito mode, your internet provider or certain website may still track your activity. The risks of unexposed private self include data breaches where your personal information is like companies using your private data for targeted ads, sometimes without clear consent, government or third parties accessing your data for surveillance purposes. This shows why it's important to be aware of the hidden data we generate online.
Differences between public self and private self.
Key differences between public and digital self. Now, let's compare the public and private digital self side by side. The public self is a content we control. It's what we intentionally share, like Instagram photos or tweets. The private self is the data we don't directly share, such as app usage, location tracking, and browsing history. The main differences is control. You can create and manage your public digital self, but your private self is harder to manage as companies automatically collect and store data about you. Both have implications. An unfiltered public self can affect your personal and professional reputation. An exposed private self can lead to loss of privacy and even financially fraud. This makes it essential to monitor both sides of your digital self.
Risk and consequences.
Risks and consequences. Both the public and private digital self carry potential risks. For the public self, the main risk includes reputation damage. Embracing or inappropriate posts can affect future job prospects or relationships. Oversharing, revealing too much personal information can lead to identity theft. Cyberbullying or harassment. Public profiles are vulnerable or unwanted attention. For the private self, the risk includes data breaches. When companies store your personal data, it becomes vulnerable to hacking. Lack of privacy. Companies collect and sell your data, reducing your anonymity. Lastly, targeted advertising. Your private data is used to influence your shopping and browsing habits. The risk highly why it is essential to protect both your public and private self.
Privacy tips and best practices.
Privacy tips and best practice. To reduce the risk of associated with your digital self, here are some privacy tips and best practice. For your public self, use privacy settings on social media to limit who can see your post. Think before you post. Once something is online, it's difficult to erase. Remove personal details from public profile, like your phone number or home address. For your private self, use strong, unique password for different accounts. Enable two factors authentication to add an extra layer of security. Regularly clear your browsing history and cookies. Review app permission and revoke access when necessary. Following this step will help you protect your privacy and security online.
Real world examples.
Let's look at real-world examples. For the public digital self, consider celebrities or influencers. They share carefully curated content, but they are also vulnerable to privacy breaches. For example, some celebrities have their private photos leaked due to hacking incidents. For the private self, companies like Google and Facebook track massive amounts of user data. They monitor searches, location, and online behavior to create detailed profiles. This data is then used for targeted ads, often without user realizing how much information is being collected. These examples show why it's vital to manage both your public and private digital self responsibly.
Conclusion.
The digital self consists of both public and private aspects. Your public self is what you intentionally share, while your private self is made up of hidden data trails. Both have risks, including reputation damage and privacy violations. Practicing good privacy habits is essential to protecting your digital identity. The key takeaway: be mindful of your online footprint, both the visible and hidden parts.